On January 6, 2016, in a bustling cafe in the heart of Jakarta, Indonesia, a simple meeting turned deadly when Mirna Salihin suddenly collapsed after sipping her Vietnamese iced coffee. What exactly led to this tragic event? And most importantly, who was Mirna meeting that day? Stay with us as we dive into the deep investigation that led to what's famously known as Indonesia's trial of the century. Born in 1988, Wayan Mirna Salihin came from a wealthy Indonesian family. She moved to Australia to study at the Billy Blue College of Design in Sydney. This is where she met and became close to Jessica Wongso. Both shared dreams, secrets, and the everyday moments that weave the tapestry of a deep friendship. They fully enjoyed their Australian adventure, but eventually their paths diverged as Mirna returned to Indonesia after graduating college, while Jessica became a permanent Australian resident. In 2014, Mirna caught up with Jessica while vacationing in Australia. What should have been a joyful reunion turned into a bitter disagreement. Mirna bluntly told Jessica to break up with her boyfriend Patrick O'Connor, as she believed he wasn't good for her. Jessica, not appreciating the unsolicited advice, stormed out of the restaurant, leaving Mirna to pay for the meal. But why did Jessica react so abruptly? Unlike Mirna, who was leading a very happy and fulfilling life back in Indonesia, Jessica's existence in Australia was hiding a dark reality. Living abroad is not an easy feat despite the glitz and glamour that can transpire off social media. The reality can be filled with solitude and hardened by cultural adaptation. Jessica had found a job as a designer at the New South Wales ambulance, but relationships with her boss were far from cordial. It seemed like the trigger for Jessica's inner darkness came with the end of her relationship with her boyfriend. She fell into a deep depression and was hospitalized 5 times after trying to end her life. On August 22, 2015, one of these attempts resulted in her getting drunk and crashing her Audi into a nursing home. Fortunately, no one inside the residence was hurt, but Jessica escaped this accident with cracked ribs. All this rampant darkness led to Jessica being fired from her job on December 1, 2015. In the meantime, she learned that Mirna had gotten married without inviting her to the wedding. Turns out Mirna had gotten so fearful of Jessica after their last meeting in Australia that she didn't want anything to do with her. This was the last straw for Jessica, who decided to go back to Indonesia and regain control of the situation. Jessica invited Mirna for coffee, who accepted to come only in the presence of another common friend, Hani Juwita Boone, who had also studied with the pair in Australia. On January 6, 2016, they all met at the upscale Olivier Café in the bustling Grand Indonesia Mall in Jakarta. But pay attention to the timeline, because this is not your typical get-together. First of all, hours before meeting up, Jessica messages the girls to tell them she would buy drinks for them before they got there. So, at 3:30 p.m., Jessica arrives at the restaurant, a full 90 minutes before they're all supposed to meet. At 3:32, she leaves the restaurant, and 42 minutes later, returns with 3 large bags from Bath & Body Works. She's captured on CCTV wandering around the restaurant and kind of scouting the area for the best seats in the house. She orders 3 drinks, including a Vietnamese iced coffee, which she specifically requests for Mirna. Once the drinks arrive at 4:24 p.m., she strategically places them behind the bags. She's seen moving the drinks around, an act that would later become a focal point of the investigation. Mirna and Hani are seen arriving at 5:16 p.m. Greetings are exchanged, and Mirna, unaware of the fate that awaits her, takes a sip of the Vietnamese iced coffee. Almost immediately, she expresses her displeasure, complaining about the bitter taste of her drink. Moments later, her body reacts violently. She starts to convulse and foam at the mouth, an alarming sight that prompts immediate action from bystanders and restaurant staff. Jessica immediately asks the waiter what they put in the coffee, but does not seem to panic, unlike everyone else. Emergency services are called as Mirna's condition rapidly deteriorates. Amidst panic and confusion, she is rushed to Abdi Waluyo Hospital. Despite the desperate efforts of medical staff, Mirna Salihin passes away at 6 p.m. that evening. The preliminary diagnosis points to severe poisoning. a shocking conclusion that sets off a whirlwind of legal and criminal investigations. As the news of Mirna's death spread, the focus shifted to the last person who had seen her alive and well, Jessica Wongso. The case quickly captured the public's attention, with each development more gripping than the last. What started as a reunion among friends had spiraled into a sinister plot of betrayal and murder. Key to unraveling the mystery was the analysis of the CCTV footage from Olivier Café. Investigators zeroed in on the timeline and Jessica's movements. They noted her early arrival and her interaction with the drinks, specifically how she had positioned the shopping bags around Mirna's coffee, potentially obstructing view from others at the cafe. These actions, coupled with the fatal outcome, led to heightened suspicion. Jessica was formally named a suspect later in January. The police cited the motive as possibly rooted in personal grievances. Remember that day when Mirna met Jessica at the restaurant? Well, this angle was pursued vigorously by the authorities as it might have contributed to a motive for murder. By January 30, 2016, just weeks after the incident, Jessica was arrested and taken into custody. Her arrest sparked widespread media coverage, both in Indonesia and Australia. Surprisingly, Jessica appeared smiling and seemingly enjoying all the media attention. The case quickly garnered the label of the trial of the century in Indonesia due to its sensational elements: a friendship gone fatally wrong, the use of poison, and the involvement of an overseas resident. The preparation for the trial involved meticulous examination of Jessica's past. Australian federal police cooperated with Indonesian authorities on condition that Indonesian authorities not apply the death penalty by firing squad in case of Jessica's conviction. They provided background information and details of Jessica's life and behavior in Australia, which might have influenced her psychological profile. As Jessica awaited trial, public and media speculation swirled, with debates about the fairness of the investigation and whether cultural and personal biases were influencing public perception and the legal process. The trial of Jessica Wongso, which began on June 15, 2016, was one of Indonesia's most high-profile legal proceedings in recent memory. Held at the Central Jakarta District Court, the proceedings were open to the public and extensively covered by both Indonesian and international media, reflecting the intense public interest in the case. Prosecutors presented a case that Jessica had deliberately poisoned Mirna with cyanide-laced coffee due to resentment stemming from Mirna's advice to end a problematic relationship and driven by jealousy over Mirna's married life and her perceived happiness. This motive, they argued, was backed by evidence of premeditation, highlighted by Jessica's actions at the cafe, captured on CCTV. The video footage, which showed Jessica arranging the seating and the drinks in a particular manner, and her calm demeanor throughout the event, played a crucial role in the prosecution's narrative. The prosecution painted Jessica as a master manipulator. They pointed to her troubled history in Australia, including her multiple suicide attempts and aggressive behavior, as indicative of her capability for such a crime. One key witness for the prosecution was Jessica's previous boss at New South Wales Ambulance, Christy Carter. She gave chilling insights into Jessica's behavior and personality. Jessica once admitted knowing how to use poison to kill when she was in the hospital recovering from suicide attempt by saying, "If I wanted to kill someone, I'd know exactly the right dose." Carter also testified that Jessica had threatened her 2 months before Mirna's death. "You have to, and your mom should too." However, the defense challenged the prosecution's narrative. They criticized the reliability of the CCTV footage, noting that it did not directly show Jessica tampering with the drink. They pointed out the lack of forensic evidence linking Jessica to the poison used in Mirna's death. The defense argued that the case was built on circumstantial evidence and sensationalism rather than solid proof. Furthermore, they argued that the cyanide levels found in Mirna's body were not conclusively lethal, suggesting possible contamination or other unexplored causes of death. After 4.5 months of heated courtroom battles, the judges delivered their verdict on October 27, 2016. Jessica Wongso was found guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The judges cited the calculated nature of the crime and dismissed Jessica's claims of innocence based on the evidence presented. Jessica's reaction was one of defiance. She maintained her innocence and criticized the court's decision as unjust and one-sided. Her legal team immediately signaled their intention to appeal, setting the stage for further legal proceedings. The verdict and the sentence sparked a mix of relief and outrage across Indonesia, with some viewing it as justice served, while others saw it as a miscarriage of justice influenced by public and media pressure. Recent attention has been brought back to the case with the release of the Netflix documentary Ice Cold Murder Coffee and Jessica Wongso, which delves into the details of the case and the surrounding controversy. The documentary has reignited debates over the fairness of the Indonesian justice system and Jessica's guilt, leading to public outcry and calls for a review of the case. All our thoughts and prayers go to Mirna's family.